you are just the IT guy. Those 5 words at Thanksgiving dinner last year were the final straw after decades of my family dismissing my career. For years, I had been their 24/7 tech support building websites for my brother's business custom software, for my sister's medical practice, and managing everyone's digital lives. I calculated the value of my services $62,000 annually, all given freely without a word of thanks or respect in return. Before I tell you how I finally stood up for myself, let me know where you are watching from. Hit subscribe if family drama hits close to home, and stick around to see how I reclaimed my self-respect after years of being undervalued. I grew up in a traditional Midwestern family where certain careers were considered real jobs, while others were just hobbies. My father, James, worked his way up from factory floor to management at the same manufacturing company for 30 years. My mother, Linda, was an elementary school teacher who believed in practical career paths and tangible results. From an early age, the hierarchy was clear. My older brother, Adam, was destined for business school, following in our father's footsteps. My sister, Megan, was the academic star set on becoming a doctor since she was 10. Then there was me, the youngest, always tinkering with computers when they were still considered mysterious boxes rather than essential tools. When are you going to stop playing around with those computer games and focus on something useful? My father would ask whenever he found me coding or building primitive websites in the late 90s. The fact that I was learning HTML and basic programming at 14 was irrelevant to him. It was not a real pursuit. During family dinners, the conversation inevitably centered around Adam's business prospects or Megan's pre-med achievements. My coding competition wins, or the website I built for my high school warranted only passing acknowledgement. That is nice, but what about applying to business school like your brother, was the typical response. By the time I reached high school graduation, the family narrative was firmly established. Adam was the businessman who would make the family proud. Megan was the brilliant doctor in training. And I was just good with computers, a phrase used with the same enthusiasm as good at video games. Despite the discouragement, my passion for technology only grew stronger. While my parents pushed college brochures for business and law toward me, I researched computer science programs. When I announced my decision to pursue IT education, my father's disappointment was palpable. "There is still time to choose a more stable career path," he said, as if the rapidly expanding tech industry was a passing fad. My mother was slightly more supportive, but still concerned. "I just worry about your future, honey. Nobody in our family knows anything about computers." Is there really money in that I paid my own way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, while Adam received full parental support for his MBA and Megan had her medical school applications coached and funded? I taught myself additional programming languages between classes and built websites for local businesses to earn extra money. My first internships were challenging. The tech bubble had just burst, and entry-level positions were competitive. I worked unpaid positions to build my resume, sleeping on a friend's couch to save money while sending half my earnings from my weekend job at an electronics store back home to help my parents with bills. My breakthrough came when I specialized in cybersecurity, just as companies were beginning to recognize its importance. I secured a position at a respected firm, quickly advancing as my skills and work ethic gained recognition. 3 years later, I took the risk of starting my own consulting business, focusing on custom security solutions for small and medium businesses. The start was rocky, with sleepless nights worrying about making rent, but gradually my client list grew. I hired my first employee in year 2. By year 5, we were a team of 8, with a solid reputation in our region. Now 10 years in, my company employs 15 people and holds contracts with several government agencies and major corporations. My income surpassed both my siblings years ago. I own my home outright drive a luxury car I paid cash for, and have investments that will let me retire comfortably at 50 if I choose. By any objective measure, my career has been a success. Yet to my family, I remain just the IT guy. When I visit my parents, my father still asks when I am going to get a real job with a big company that offers stability. My professional achievements are minimized as computer stuff that nobody in the family quite understands or respects. The irony is that while they dismissed my career choice, they came to rely completely on my skills. It started small, fixing my mother's email, helping my father set up his new laptop, recovering my sister's lost term paper. But over the years, it expanded into an unpaid second job. I became the on-call 24/7 tech support for my entire extended family. No matter the time or day, I was expected to drop everything for their technological emergencies. A crashed computer before my brother's business presentation. My sister's patient database glitching right before a busy clinic day. My parents' internet going down while they were trying to book flights. Beyond troubleshooting, I built complete systems for them. I designed, developed, and maintained my brother Adam's business website, online ordering system, and customer database. For Megan's medical practice, I created a custom patient scheduling application and secure record system that she proudly showed off to colleagues who paid thousands for inferior software. For my parents, I set up and maintained their entire digital life smart home system, security cameras, automatic bill payments, tax software, photo storage, and remote health monitoring for my father after his heart surgery. I organized their finances into a custom dashboard that simplified their retirement planning. The support extended to the extended family as well. Custom inventory management for my uncle's hardware store. College application tracking software for my cousins. Wedding websites, photo cloud storage, virus removals, password recoveries, printer setups, and countless hours of patient explanation and training. During holidays, while others relaxed after dinner, I would make rounds through the house, updating software, clearing malware, and solving the technical problems everyone had saved up for my visit. Vacations were interrupted by urgent calls about forgotten passwords or suspicious emails. Beyond technical support, I provided significant financial help during family crises. When Adam's first business venture failed, I loaned him $30,000 to stay afloat. When Megan needed money for an unexpected expense during residency, I covered it. When my parents' roof needed replacement after a storm, I paid the insurance deductible. None of these loans were ever fully repaid. None of these services were ever properly acknowledged. It was simply expected that since I was good with computers and apparently doing well enough financially, this was my contribution to the family. After all, Adam provided business advice and Megan offered medical consultations. I was just doing my part. Out of curiosity, I once calculated the market value of all the technical services I provided to my family, annually approximately $62,000. That figure did not include the unpaid loans or opportunity cost of projects delayed because I was solving family tech problems. Yet for all this support, there was zero recognition or appreciation in return. My career remained a punchline, my success attributed to luck rather than skill or hard work. I was not a successful entrepreneur. I was just the family IT department. Last Thanksgiving marked my breaking point. I had arrived at my parents' house 3 hours before dinner to set up their new smart home system, a complex integration of security, lighting, temperature, and entertainment controls that would have cost them thousands to have, professionally installed. I skipped watching the traditional family football game to crawl under desks and configure settings emerging just in time to shower before dinner. As we sat around the table, the conversation followed its usual pattern. Adam dominated the discussion with details about his latest business venture, a commercial real estate development that was attracting major investors. My parents nodded approvingly, as he described negotiations and projected returns. Megan shared news of her promotion to department head at the hospital, the youngest doctor to achieve the position in the institution's history. My mother clutched her heart with pride, and my father raised his glass in a toast to her accomplishment. When the attention reluctantly turned to me, I mentioned that my company had just secured a significant contract with a government agency, a competitive bid we won against firms 10 times our size. It was the biggest achievement of my career so far, one that would allow us to expand and hire several new specialized employees. There was a moment of silence before my father chuckled and said, "Well, you are just the IT guy, right? Fixing computers and whatnot." The table erupted in familiar laughter, my professional milestone reduced to a family joke. My mother patted my hand sympathetically, adding, "We are glad you are doing well with your computer hobby, dear." In that moment, something shifted inside me. I looked around at the family who had just finished sending emails on the devices I secured, taking photos on the cloud storage I maintained, sitting in a home protected by security systems I installed, planning to ask me after dinner to solve various tech problems they had been saving up. I smiled politely and said nothing, but as conversation moved on, I found myself conducting a mental inventory of everything I had provided to this table, of people who could not see past their narrow definition of success to recognize mine. The drive home that night was filled with a strange mix of anger and clarity. Instead of music, I dictated notes to myself, listing every service, every system, every middle-of-the-night emergency call I had fielded over the years. The more I spoke, the more I realized how completely my family had come to depend on infrastructure they neither understood nor appreciated. Once home, I created a detailed spreadsheet. I documented each family member, the systems I maintained for them, the hours spent on support, and the market value of those services. I listed emergency calls, weekend work, and custom solutions developed specifically for their needs. I added financial loans and gifts that had never been repaid. The final tally was staggering: approximately $62,000 worth of technical support and services provided annually, all offered freely and taken completely for granted. Seeing the number in black and white solidified something I had felt, but never quantified. My contribution to the family was substantial and valuable, regardless of how they characterized it. The next phase of my inventory was even more revealing. I mapped out the digital dependency my family had developed on systems I created and maintained. Adam's entire business operated on the website, customer relationship management system, and inventory tracking software I had built, maintained for 7 years. His employees logged in every morning to a portal I had designed. His clients placed orders through an interface I had coded, and his financial projections relied on analytics I had customized. Megan's thriving medical practice used my patient scheduling application daily. The secure messaging system that allowed her to communicate with patients while maintaining privacy compliance was my creation. The automated billing system that had cut her administrative costs by 30% was something I had spent weekends perfecting. My parents lived in a home where virtually everything was connected to systems I had set up. Their thermostats, security cameras, door locks, entertainment systems, and even some lighting operated through the smart home hub I configured. Their financial life ran through the dashboard I had created, automatically categorizing expenses, tracking investments, and alerting them to unusual activity. My uncle's hardware store relied on the inventory management system I had built when his supplier stopped supporting their legacy software. My cousins used the shared family photo archive I maintained. Even extended family members I barely spoke to throughout the year had my personal email saved for computer emergencies. The reality was stark. They had all become completely dependent on digital infrastructure that I provided, maintained, and upgraded out of familial duty, while simultaneously dismissing the value and legitimacy of the career that gave me those skills. My first impulse was to shut everything down immediately. In my anger, I imagined the chaos that would ensue if I simply pulled the plug on all the systems I maintained. Adam's business grinding to a halt mid-transaction. Megan's patients unable to schedule appointments. My parents locked out of their smart home features. But after the initial wave of vindictive fantasy passed, I took time to consider the ethical implications and potential consequences. These were still my family members, and some of these systems involved innocent third parties like patients and customers. An abrupt termination without warning would be unnecessarily cruel and potentially harmful. I scheduled a session with my therapist, who had been helping me work through family issues for years. She listened carefully to my revelation and frustration. It sounds like you have been enabling their dismissive behavior by continuing to provide valuable services without requiring basic respect in return, she observed. Healthy boundaries are not just allowed, they are necessary for healthy relationships. Together, we crafted a 3-part plan: documentation, notification, and action. I would fully document all systems I maintained, provide clear notification of service changes, and then follow through consistently regardless of emotional manipulation. Over the next week, I created detailed transition documents for each system. I wrote step-by-step instructions for basic maintenance, collected login credentials in secure documents, and listed recommended professional services they could hire as alternatives to my free support. I was thorough and professional, the way I would be when offboarding a client. I set up an automatic response system for tech support requests that would direct family members to the appropriate documentation or professional alternatives. I created a timeline for service termination that would give everyone adequate notice without room for procrastination. The final step was the hardest: preparing emotionally for the inevitable backlash. My therapist helped me rehearse responses to the likely guilt trips, accusations of pettiness, and attempts to make me back down. We worked on simple, clear statements, reinforcing my boundary. I am no longer providing free technical services to people who do not respect my profession. With my plan in place, I composed a formal email. The tone was professional rather than emotional, the kind of notice I would send to a client changing service terms. Dear Family Effective, immediately I am restructuring the technical support and services I have provided to you over the years. Attached is documentation of all systems currently maintained by me, including their purpose, access methods, and market value. I attached the spreadsheet with all services categorized and valued at standard industry rates. I continued. After careful consideration, I have decided to discontinue providing these services on a complimentary basis. All systems will continue functioning for 30 days from this notice, after which they will be transitioned as follows. I outlined the transition plan for each family member, including recommendations for professional services they could hire and estimated costs. For systems involving sensitive data, like my sister's patient records, I detailed a responsible transition protocol to ensure no information would be lost or compromised. Should you wish to retain my professional services after the transition period, my company's standard service contracts and rate sheet are attached. I am happy to discuss tailored solutions that meet your specific needs on a professional basis. I concluded with, this decision reflects my need to establish professional boundaries that align with the value of my time and expertise. I appreciate your understanding and am available to discuss transition plans during business hours. I sent the email to everyone simultaneously on a Tuesday morning. Then, I activated the autoresponder on my family support email address, directing all requests to the documentation I had prepared. For several hours, there was silence. I imagined them reading the email, looking at the spreadsheet, perhaps for the first time, realizing the scope and value of what I had been providing. Then, predictably, the reactions began to pour in. The first wave was confusion and disbelief. Text messages asking if my email had been hacked or if this was some elaborate joke. I responded consistently, The email is genuine. The documentation provides all the information needed for transition. The second wave was anger. My phone began ringing constantly with family members expressing shock, hurt, and accusations of pettiness. "How could you do this? Over one little comment?" my mother asked, conveniently forgetting years of similar little comments. Adam's call was the most dramatic. "Are you insane? My entire business runs on your systems. You cannot just pull the plug because your feelings got hurt at Thanksgiving." "I am not pulling the plug," I explained calmly. "I am giving 30 days notice and providing complete documentation for transition. You are welcome to hire my company at our standard rates or find another provider." "This is extortion," he shouted. "You know, nobody can figure out your systems in 30 days. "The documentation is comprehensive," I replied, "and I have provided recommendations for several qualified service providers. The complexity of the systems reflects their value, which has been provided free of charge until now." Megan's approach was different, but equally predictable. "Think about my patients," she pleaded. "If the scheduling system goes down, vulnerable people will miss appointments." "The documentation includes a complete data export protocol," I explained. "Several medical software providers can import the data with minimal disruption. I have listed 3 in the transition document, including their migration costs." My parents oscillated between disappointment and manipulation. "We are too old to learn new systems," my father argued, "and we cannot afford to pay for all these services on our fixed income." "The documentation includes simplified instructions," I responded, "and many of the services can be replaced with free or low-cost alternatives. I have listed budget-friendly options for each system." The extended family's responses were mixed. Some cousins expressed understanding, even acknowledging they had taken advantage of my skills. Others joined the chorus of outrage, claiming I was overreacting to harmless family teasing. The family group chat exploded with competing narratives. Some defended me, pointing out years of dismissed achievements and unacknowledged support. Others characterized me as petty and vindictive, holding vital family systems hostage over perceived slights. Through it all, I maintained a calm, consistent response, always referring back to the documentation and the professional options available. I did not engage with emotional appeals or attempts to minimize the issue. Adam escalated to threats. "I will tell all your potential clients how unprofessional you are holding family business hostage." That was when I finally allowed myself one emotional response in the group chat. For years, I have provided enterprise-level IT infrastructure and support valued at $62,000 annually to a family that dismisses my career as just fixing computers. I have documented every system, provided transition plans, and given reasonable notice. Now survive without me. The transition period that followed was predictably chaotic. Adam hired an overpriced IT consultant who struggled to understand the custom systems I had built over years. The consultant wanted to scrap everything and start fresh, quoting a price that made Adam's eyes water. Only then did my brother begin to appreciate the sophistication and value of what I had created. Megan lost a full day of patient appointments when her practice attempted to migrate to a new scheduling system without following my documented protocol. The resulting data inconsistencies took another 2 days to resolve with her office manager, finally calling me in tears, offering to pay my professional rate to assist. I provided 2 hours of paid consultation, solving the most critical issues while maintaining my boundary. My parents' smart home experienced mysterious malfunctions as automatic updates failed to install properly. Their security system developed glitches that required manual resets. The financial dashboard they had come to rely on stopped synchronizing with their accounts. Everyday digital tasks became frustrating obstacles rather than seamless conveniences. My uncle's inventory system crashed during the pre-Christmas rush, his busiest season. The backup protocols I had established prevented data loss, but the system remained offline for 3 critical business days while a local IT service attempted to understand and restore it. 2 weeks into the transition period, I learned through my cousin Sarah that a family meeting had been called without me to discuss the situation. Opinions had divided into two camps: those who felt I was being unreasonable and should get over it, and those who had begun to recognize the true value of what I had provided and were shocked by the cost of replacements. Sarah was tasked with approaching me as the family ambassador. Everyone is struggling with the changes, she admitted when we met for coffee. They had no idea how much they depended on your systems until now. Is there any room for compromise? I am happy to provide services under standard professional contracts, I repeated. The family discount will be reflected in the quality and familiarity I already have with their systems. But these rates, she gestured at my company's service sheet, Adam calculated that he would be paying nearly $2,000 monthly for what you were doing for free. That reflects the market value of those services, I explained. He is welcome to find more competitive rates if they exist for the custom solutions I built. Sarah sighed. I think everyone is starting to realize how much they took for granted. Not just the technical stuff, but you as a person. The dismissive comments about your career while completely relying on your skills. It looks pretty bad now that everyone is seeing the bills for replacement services. That conversation marked a turning point. As the reality of finding and paying for alternatives sank in the family's perspective, began to shift. The technical complexity they had dismissed as just computer stuff now had tangible value expressed in invoices and service contracts from other providers. My decision to establish boundaries with my family triggered an unexpected personal transformation. The first few days were difficult, filled with doubt and guilt, as messages poured in questioning my choice. Was I overreacting? Was I damaging relationships beyond repair? The family narrative that I was being petty and vindictive sometimes crept into my own thoughts. But as days passed, I noticed something surprising: freedom. My evenings and weekends were suddenly my own. No more emergency calls about forgotten passwords or crashed websites. No more remote troubleshooting during vacations. No more holidays spent crawling under desks instead of participating in family activities. I redirected that energy toward my own business and well-being. Without constant interruptions from family technical emergencies, I focused more deeply on client projects. I completed a major security certification I had been postponing. I personally led the onboarding process for our government contract, ensuring it launched flawlessly. With my newfound focus, the business flourished. We secured 2 major new clients who had previously been just beyond our reach. I hired 3 highly qualified security specialists who brought fresh expertise to our team. We moved from our cramped office to a modern space that reflected our company's growing status in the industry. Beyond work, I discovered the luxury of personal time. I joined a rock climbing gym, something I had wanted to try for years. I took cooking classes and hosted dinner parties for friends. I read books that had nothing to do with technology or business. Small pleasures that had seemed impossible when my off hours were consumed by family technical support. I even started dating again, meeting Lauren, a graphic designer, who asked thoughtful questions about my work and expressed genuine interest in my career journey. The contrast between her respect for my profession and my family's dismissal was stark and illuminating. "It is strange that your family would minimize what you do," she said after I explained my background. Technology literally shapes every aspect of modern life. Building secure, functional systems is essential work. Her perspective reinforced what I had known, but struggled to internalize. My career was legitimate, valuable, and worthy of respect. The problem had never been my choice of profession, but rather my family's narrow definition of success. Meanwhile, my family was undergoing their own evolution. The transition period expired, and each member found their own way to adapt to the new reality. Adam hired a proper IT staff for his growing business, finally recognizing that the digital infrastructure was too important to leave to ad hoc solutions. During the hiring process, he called me once not for free help, but for advice on evaluating candidates. I never realized how specialized this knowledge is, he admitted, or how expensive good talent can be. You made it all seem effortless. It was the closest thing to an acknowledgement of my skills I had ever received from him. I provided honest guidance on the technical qualifications he should look for maintaining professional boundaries while still being helpful. Megan took a different approach. She contracted with a medical software provider, but retained me on a limited professional basis for specialized features unique to her practice. Our interactions shifted from entitled demands to scheduled consultations where she came prepared with clear questions and respected my time. The patient portal you built was actually more advanced than what we are using now, she acknowledged during one session. I never realized how much customization you had done until we switched to a standard system. My parents adapted more slowly. They simplified their digital life, abandoning some of the smart home features they rarely used and learning to manage basic tasks themselves. My mother surprised me by signing up for a computer basics class at the local library, determined to become more self-sufficient. My uncle, perhaps the most practically minded of the family, simply hired me professionally from the start. Your time has value, he said plainly. I need your service, you need to be paid. Simple business. His matter-of-fact approach was refreshingly straightforward and became a model for how I would engage with family requests going forward. The extended family dynamic gradually shifted as well. At gatherings, my career was no longer a punchline. Questions about my work became more genuine, less dismissive. Family members who had hired professional alternatives now had a framework for understanding the value of what I did. 3 months after my boundary-setting email, the family gathered for Christmas at my parents' house. The atmosphere was initially awkward, but civil. I arrived bringing only gifts, not my laptop and toolkit, as had been the tradition for years. Some family members seemed unsure how to interact with me without technology requests as the default conversation starter. During dinner, conversation inevitably turned to work updates. Adam discussed his business expansion. Megan mentioned a new treatment approach her department was pioneering. When attention turned to me, I briefly mentioned a cybersecurity conference where I had been invited to speak. That sounds impressive, my father said, without a trace of his usual dismissiveness. What will you be speaking about? The question simple, as it was represented a significant shift. For the first time, he was expressing interest in the actual content of my work, rather than dismissing it as incomprehensible computer stuff. As the evening progressed, I noticed other small changes. My cousin asked for my professional opinion on a software solution his company was considering. My aunt mentioned an article she had read about cybersecurity and wanted my thoughts. These were not requests for free services, but acknowledgments of my expertise. The most surprising moment came a week later when my father asked to meet for lunch, just the two of us. Sitting across from him at his favorite diner, I expected another attempt to renegotiate my boundaries. Instead, he did something unprecedented. I owe you an apology, he said, looking uncomfortable but determined. I never gave your career the respect it deserved. I did not understand it, so I dismissed it. That was wrong of me. The admission, simple as it was, represented a fundamental shift in our relationship, he continued. Seeing all the systems fail that you kept running so smoothly, it was a wake-up call. What you do is not just real work, it is complex, valuable work that none of us could figure out. Over the following months, a new equilibrium established itself in our family. I created a clear family service plan with defined scope and expectations. Some family members chose to pay for my professional services at a modest family discount. Others found alternative solutions that met their needs and budgets. The key difference was that every interaction now had clear boundaries. No more midnight calls expecting immediate response. No more assumptions that my time and expertise were infinitely available without acknowledgement or compensation. Gradually, our relationships expanded beyond technical support roles. Conversations with my siblings began to include genuine exchanges about our lives and interests rather than thinly disguised requests for technical help. Family gatherings became opportunities for connection rather than free consultation sessions. My father and I established a monthly lunch tradition where we slowly rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect. My mother proudly showed me her growing computer skills instead of immediately handing me her device to fix. The process was not always smooth. Old patterns occasionally resurfaced with casual requests for quick help testing my boundaries. But I remained consistent, redirecting such requests to proper channels, scheduled time, clear expectations, and appropriate compensation for professional services. The most significant change was internal. I no longer felt like the underappreciated family resource, but a respected professional whose boundaries were acknowledged. The resentment that had been building for years gradually dissolved, replaced by healthier, more balanced relationships. Looking back on that Thanksgiving dinner and the "just the IT guy" comment, that triggered my boundary setting. I realized that sometimes being underestimated becomes your greatest advantage. It forces you to accurately value yourself when others will not. It pushes you to establish the boundaries that ultimately lead to healthier relationships and greater personal fulfillment. The $62,000 in support I canceled was never really about the money. It was about requiring basic respect for my time, skills, and career choice. In the end, that boundary did more to improve our family dynamic than years of silently providing unacknowledged support ever could. Has your family ever dismissed your career or talents while simultaneously benefiting from them? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story helped you think about setting your own boundaries, please hit like and subscribe to support more content about healthy family dynamics. Share this video with anyone who might need a reminder that their skills deserve respect and appropriate compensation, even from family. Thank you for listening to my journey of reclaiming self-respect, and remember that sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are the ones that ultimately bring the most healing.